Hola a todos y bienvenidos un día más al canal Crónicas de una Merodeadora. Hoy estoy con esta cara, con esta pinta y no en el lugar habitual porque realmente no grabé videos hoy como normalmente lo hago porque creo que se nota que me duele un poco la cabeza. Entonces estaba subtitulando unas entrevistas que hice hace un tiempo y esta es súper interesante, es con Adrian Young y hablamos sobre cómo es el proceso creativo que hay detrás de un libro y también cómo es el proceso editorial que hay detrás de un libro, que me parece algo muy cool, pero también pasaba por aquí porque no quería que se me fuera un video sin recordarles que tenemos una aplicación increíble de 45 días gratis en la que pueden leer libros, pues eso, gratis, o escuchar libros gratis durante ese periodo de tiempo sin que les cobren absolutamente nada. Funciona básicamente como un Netflix de libros en todo el mundo, hay libros en español y en inglés. Y dicho eso, pues nada, los dejo con la entrevista y manden fuerza para que se quite este dolor de cabeza. Bye. Hola a todos y bienvenidos un día más al canal Crónicas de una Merodeadora. Hoy estoy con Adrian Young. Welcome to my channel.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, how are you?
I'm doing great.
First of all, obviously, I want you to introduce us to your books.
So this is The Girl the Sea Gave Back, and this is actually a companion novel to Sky in the Deep. And Sky in the Deep was my first novel ever, and also my first novel translated into Spanish. It is a Viking-inspired fantasy, which is about a girl who's kind of a warrior girl who's raised in a generations-old feud between clans, and she one day on the battlefield sees her brother on the other side, but it's the brother that she saw die 5 years ago. And so the story is about her kind of trying to find out what happened to her brother and, you know, how he wound up fighting with the enemy. And The Girl the Sea Gave Back is a spin-off kind of that novel. It follows one of the characters in Sky in the Deep 10 years later. He's a little boy in the first book and he's 18 years old in this book. And it's kind of a continuation of what the battle between those clans looks like. What does it look like after war? How are things developing? And it also, the other main character in this book is what we call a truth tongue, and she reads the runes and is kind of a mediary to see the future between the humans and the gods. So that's a 2-book, not series, but you know, they take place in the same world. Then we have Fable and Namesake, Medianoche.
Yeah,
this is a different series completely, and it's a seafaring fantasy, kind of inspired by the Age of Sail. And it's in this very treacherous, cutthroat world run by gems and the gem trade. And our main character is Fable, who is a dredger. She dives for gems. And she has been stranded on an island for several years trying to get off to go find the father who left her there and kind of claim her place on his crew. It's all like adventure and romance and found family and all those things. And there's actually now 4 books in the series.
Oh yeah,
because,
I've seen it.
Yeah, so it's Fable, Namesake, there's a spin-off called The Last Legacy, and now there's a prequel called Saint, but my most recent book is Spells for Forgetting.
Yay.
This is my first adult fiction novel, and it's kind of it's like a small town mystery, magical realism. It's also very romantic, and it follows 2 people, and one of which is a man coming home for the first time in 14 years to bury his mother's ashes. And he was kind of run out of town when he was 18 years old, and he was accused of murdering a 17-year-old girl. And so now he's coming back to face his past and face the love of his life that he left behind. And there's lots and lots of secrets.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about like the whole process behind creating a book, like from the moment you have like the spark of the idea. What do you do?
Yeah, so ideas come to me in a picture, always. A picture pops into my head, and it's usually when I'm listening to music. It's also usually inspired by something I've absorbed that I was inspired by, like something historical, maybe a movie or TV show I watched, or another book, or some random fact that I ran across. But I'll be, you know, listening to music, driving down the road, and all of a sudden, bam, I have this picture in my head that's very detailed. And, you know, for Sky in the Deep, for example, it was a girl standing on a battlefield, and like a foggy battlefield, and she's like in armor, she's got blood all over her, you know.
Lagertha style.
Yes, totally. And so then from that point, that's like my initial inspiration moment. the seed of the idea. And from there, what I'm doing is I'm literally just daydreaming about it. I'm just kind of getting lost in my thoughts, trying to answer the questions like, who is this person? Where are they? How did they get there? Why are they there? You know, and starting to fill in the edges of the picture until a story starts to come together. And sometimes that can take like a year. It can take 3 years. Like, I call it my story development phase, because I have to spend a lot of time in that part before I can really start writing the book. And I'm very superstitious about starting at the right time. I feel like if I start a book too soon, I will doom it. It will not, it'll be cursed and I won't be able to write it. So I also have to be very confident that the timing is right and that I'm ready to write it.
Okay. So that first part of the process, it all happens in your head.
All
you
of
don't
it.
write anything.
Nope, I'll take notes.
Okay.
I have like a notebook for each project, and I'll like fill up the notebook with all of my daydreaming, brainstorming, but I don't outline the book beforehand. It's just all my ideas in one place.
So when it comes like the time for you to actually write, do you do the outline or no?
No. So I won't start a book if I don't know where it starts.
Oh yeah.
I will not, I have to know where it starts, and maybe the first few chapters in my head, but I don't start outlining it. And then when I start writing it, it's kind of like walking in a dark cave with a torch. Like, it's very, very dark over there.
Discovering everything.
But the farther into the cave I get, the more I can see. And so I'm kind of just like slowly inching my way forward. And then sometimes I get stuck and I have to reverse and figure out where I went wrong. But I will sometimes, when I get about midway through, I might do a loose outline to the end, just so that I can kind of see my steps. But I really don't do a detailed outline until I'm done writing it. And then I use the outline to help me revise the book.
And when it comes to like the research process, for example, like biking, so how do you like research that? Everything goes into your notebook?
I try to keep everything in my notebook so that everything's in one place. I do most of my research online. If I do need more like tangible materials, I'll like go to a library or something like that, just to kind of where I can flip through a lot of different books, And I feel like I also rely heavily on YouTube because I can read the information, but it helps so much when I can see something happening so that I can describe it, because the reader's gonna imagine it in their head.
So after you get like the first draft done, do you like let it rest for a while, or do you like start reading it immediately after, or send it? What do you do?
I do at least one revision immediately, because while it's all fresh in my head, I have like a list, like a revision plan. So as soon as I get to the end, I go right back to the beginning, and I know what I need to do on the first pass. If I have time, I love to let it rest, but often because of deadlines, I am not able to. So I for sure do the first pass right away, but then ideally I would be able to let it sit for a while before I come back and work on it more.
After that revision you mentioned, you send it to your agent.
If it's a sold book,
Okay.
I send it to my editor.
Oh, okay.
If it's a book that I want to sell, I'll send it to my agent, and then she'll read it and kind of give me notes, and we'll work on it together before she goes and sells it to a publisher.
Okay.
But if it's something like my next YA novel's already sold, so like I'm working on it now, but then I'm going to, turn it into my editor, and we'll work on it together.
Yeah. And after you send it to your editor, what's the process of going like back and forth with the book so people like get to
Yeah, I send in my draft, and then the editor writes an edit letter and marks up the whole document for me and gives it back to me, and then she says, here's how long you have to go
make it over,
to do your revision, and then I take it back, and we just kind of toss it back and forth until we feel like it's done. And once it is done, then you go to copy edits. You do, which is like all the little, somebody goes in there, it's like bad grammar, or you spelled this wrong, or whatever. And then we do pass pages, which is the final step, and that's like just looking at all of it the last time, making any tiny changes.
In the end, so people can know like how hard you have to work in a book, how many times would you say you read your own book?
Oh my god.
Before publication date?
It depends on the book, but it always a lot. I would say at least 15 or 20 times, but that's conservative. Like The book that I just finished, my next adult novel, I probably read it at least 30 or 40 times because it was much more complicated to do the revisions. And so you just have to read it so many times until you're sick of it, which is why it's good if you can let it rest. Because the more you read it in a row, the more sick you get of it.
Definitely.
And if you have space, you can come back with fresh eyes and energy.
So if you had like pinpoint one specific advice you've been given about like the writing process, which one would it be?
It would be to be very careful what advice you take. I think a lot of writers want to find they don't know what their process is, so they're like reading everyone's process books and reading all the blogs and listening to all the podcasts, and they just want to find the magic bullet, you know, like the answer, the cure that's like, just tell me how to do it and I'll do it. But the reality is that every writer's process is very unique, and it's kind of, you can pick and choose elements of different people's process to form your own, but when you're trying to copy someone else's process, it will almost never go well. So I think it takes a lot of trial and error and introspection and openness to be able to develop your own true process.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you want to say like bye to them.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Bye.